They just keep flying from crisis to crisis. And I would argue a lot of these crises are ones that they created. In Egypt, in Libya, now Syria, and back here at home with Obamacare and beyond. Let's ask U.S. Congressman Bill Johnson from the 6th District of Ohio what he thinks about Syria and Congress's chances of getting anything done these next couple of months. Congressman Johnson, welcome to the show.
Andrea, it's good to be with you this morning. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Congressman, do you think that Russia just bailed out President Obama from a very embarrassing situation on Capitol Hill? What was your sense of how members were taking this vote to strike Syria?
Well, I can certainly tell you that it's been an embarrassing situation, and I think the jury is still out on whether or not Putin has bailed out the president. You made a point in your opening comments. I'm very concerned that the Russians cannot be trusted. We've seen the legacy of their actions in the past. They have blocked nearly every move that we have made at the United Nations to try to hold Syria accountable. And so this is just an indication of a broader problem, the lack of a comprehensive foreign policy in the region, and then all of the domestic issues that we have here at home, from the failure of Obamacare to the scandals in the IRS, the lack of a forthcoming and full and open disclosure on what happened in Benghazi. You name it. This administration is fraught with scandal and irresponsible leadership.
Aren't they just hoping that the president becomes distracted, that he sort of nods and agrees with this plan that they've reached and then focuses on something else, and they can do what they do best, and that's obfuscate and delay. And by that I mean the Russians, who are aligned with the Assad regime. It's the same thing the Iranians do. They just keep, delaying and hiding any intelligence, and there's no intention to get rid of any kind of weapons. Over the weekend, Congressman, I'm sure you saw the interview that the president did with George Stephanopoulos. And in it, President Obama quoted Ronald Reagan by saying, "We need to trust but verify." Congressman Bill Johnson, what did you make of Obama quoting Reagan? Is he trying to make it look like Russia's a Cold War enemy or what?
Oh, my goodness. If the president wants to learn something from Ronald Reagan, he could learn from what Ronald Reagan did in addition to what Ronald Reagan said. Andrea, if you remember what happened when the air traffic controllers attempted to strike, you remember what Ronald Reagan did. He told them to either show up for work on Monday or they'd all be fired. And they called his bluff, and he fired them. And everybody in the world saw the steel and the determination and the commitment to his principles that Ronald Reagan demonstrated. And people like Gorbachev and leaders across the world recognized right away that Ronald Reagan was a force to be reckoned with, and when he said something, he meant it. And I can tell you that we have seen over and over and over again with this administration the lack of leadership. This is what happens when you lead from behind, and that's why many of my colleagues and I have a very, very difficult time putting a military strike on Syria option on the table for this administration, because we quite honestly don't trust their ability to carry it out.
Do you also believe, Congressman, that there's any realistic opportunity to move out the weapons without boots on the ground? Because it sounds like a really good suggestion, and it's something that Putin clearly seized on to embarrass President Obama, because, as you mentioned, he had been opposed to this up until last Monday. And even up until last Monday, John Kerry said, that'll never happen. So I guess they were against this proposal before they were for it. But is it realistic that these weapons can be removed without boots on the ground?
Well, that's another question that remains to be seen. And I think you made another very valid point. Can the Russians be trusted? I don't think so. Between the Iranians and the Russians who are upholding the Assad regime, I think the best case scenario here that we're going to see is a delay. And it's not going to solve anything. And without boots on the ground, by an international force under a community of nations through the United Nations, making sure that those weapons are collected and dealt with. There's not going to. We simply cannot take the Syrian and the Russian word for it that they're properly taken care of.
Congressman Bill Johnson, Jed Babin from the American Spectator, who's a frequent guest on this show, has a very interesting piece called Diplomacy of Dunces. And in it, it says that Kerry and Obama have mastered the art of carrying a big mouth and getting hit hard with a big stick. And it says that they didn't get anything in return from Vladimir Putin. And your colleague on the other side of Capitol Hill, John Barrasso, a senator from Wyoming, says it's time that the United States gets something in return from the Russians. If you were brokering this deal, and I only have about 45 seconds left, but what is the one thing you should think that President Obama should get in return?
Well, I think what he needs to get in return is a commitment by the Russians to come to the table as a bargaining, responsible actor in the community of nations and work through the proper context through the UN Security Council to hold Syria accountable. Not try to do this behind closed doors.
Yeah, I agree. But you know what? They're going to do it all behind closed doors, and those Russians are moving those weapons out of Syria as we speak, Congressman. Congressman Bill Johnson from the 6th District of Ohio. You can follow him on Twitter at Rep. Bill Johnson. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us.
Andrea, thank you for having me.